Hello, and welcome to today's Back to Basic show. I am Rico Burton, Lady B, and I am your host here with Coach SheriAnne. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans who are 50 plus and their families. This includes health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, AARP the magazine and AARP Bulletin. Today we are here with Coach SheriAnne, and we're going to talk about some tips to help you along with holiday eating. Be sure you tell us where you're from in the chat, say hello to us, and if you have questions, please put them in there, and Coach will get to them as quickly as she can. If she doesn't get to all of them, she does circle back and make sure that she gets back to you. All right. Hello, Coach.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I won't complain. How are you?
Good. I'm good. We're in the deep of fall and it's nice because it's actually nice and crisp in the morning. So I'm
I
appreciating that. And I
know.
just saw that someone from Vermont got 8 inches last night. So that's that's not what we have here, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in Vermont, but
I don't know. I'm
winter is
praying for you, Suzanne. Praying for you, child. I don't, can't do the snow like that. Oh, no. Oh, no.
but I do want to say
But we're
happy
glad you're
Veterans
here.
Day. Happy Veterans Day. It is the 11th, and I do want to thank all those that have served and given their time to us as a humanity and as a country. So thank you. We honor you. I think about my papa, who was a World War II vet, very often, but especially today. But thank you. Happy Veterans Day. But yeah, so we are talking about how to stay healthy through the holidays. This is a 5 to 7 week period of time that has a tendency to stress a lot of people out, not only about the eating, but just everything that encompasses the holidays. So we're going to talk about 12 tips for holiday eating, but just to stay healthy throughout the holidays, because it is a challenge, because when we're stressed, our immune system is suppressed. Um, and also, when we have a tendency to overeat and not eat as smart through the holidays, we're increasing our chance of gaining some extra pounds that we're not going to be happy about. We run the risk of having high blood pressure, increasing our cholesterol, increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. There's all kinds of things, and so that can occur um, during this time. And so it's just really important to kind of stay the track as best as you can. And that's what these tips are about. But first and foremost, the holidays are about, for me, creating memories, and that is associated around family, friends, and food. It's the 3 F's: family, friends, food. And so, yeah, but if you just take the focus off of food and make it be about family, friends, and creating some memories, it helps. And so just be intentional about what you're wanting to do during the holidays and what you're wanting to create. Put your focus where it belongs. Just pay attention to what matters most to you is what I try to encourage people. Because if food matters most, then we need to have a conversation and you should reach out to me. I can't hear you, Lady B. I'm not quite sure why. I think you might have
That was
muted
my
yourself.
problem. I apologize. But, this may be a little early in the conversation, Coach, but when food is such a big part of your culture,
Yeah.
anytime somebody comes over, the first thing you do is run to the fridge and you put together something for people to eat. What do you do? How do
You
you
can
balance that?
you can still do that. It's not too early in the conversation. It's just that is a part of the equation, but your intention is about being with each other and creating memories and putting your focus where it belongs. The food is just part of it, but if the food ends up being a focus, then you're out of balance. So, and it's just about having balance and having a healthy balance. I will never tell anybody deprive yourself, you know, be rigid. No, that's not realistic and that's not having a healthy balance. And so, in fact, our first tip is choose your guilt-free days intentionally. Thanksgiving is a Thursday. It's not a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. even though we do have a long weekend and there's lots of leftovers, but choose your guilt-free days intentional. Thanksgiving is on a Thursday, and so if, yeah, you're going to have leftovers, but be guilt-free and be indulgent on that day. You don't need to be indulgent all weekend long or throughout the whole 5 to 7 weeks of this holiday period. Be intentional and choose your guilt-free days and have a heyday during those days. Just really do it up, have fun, let yourself be, and it's a guilt-free day. And then you get back on your routine as best as you can, because we have all kinds of things that are disrupting that. But choose those days intentionally. Tip number two is I always encourage people, and especially women, add your protein and your fiber first. Fill that plate up with protein and fiber. And your fiber is your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains. Fill up with that first, and then you'll have less room for the empty carbs, the bread, the really indulgent things. You'll still eat them, but you just won't have as much room for them, because it's really important that we do get the protein in and the fiber in to maintain our health. So fill up, add that first to your plate and then get the other things. Because we have a tendency to put a huge glob of potatoes on the plate and then we add around it. But just, yeah, get that protein in. Protein is really, really very, very critical. So tip 3 is be choosy. You don't have to eat everything. You don't. You can really look at your face. Now, me, I have a tendency to get a little bite. Like if I'm going somewhere and someone else is hosting and a lot of food has been prepared, I will have a tendency to get like 1 or 2 bites of each little thing because I do want to try it all. But that's me because I'm a very curious person. But you don't have to eat everything. You can be choosy. And that's where this kind of follows tip 2 of like, get that protein, be choosy, get that protein, get that fiber in, and then you can try what you want. But you can be choosy. It's okay. You don't have to
Well,
feel obligated to eat everything.
let's be real though too. You are a very disciplined person. You're asking us all of a sudden to be disciplined. We haven't been disciplined all year long. Now you want me to be disciplined these next 5 to 7 weeks. Come on, coach.
Just on, okay, you have the guilt-free days. Pick your guilt-free days, and you don't have to, so it's very likely that people will have events every weekend, and that's totally understandable and normal for very, very many people that are listening to this and that are not listening to this. So pick your Friday or Saturday. It's going to be your guilt-free day when you're at an event. And then you try to really stay focused the rest of the time. So be choosy the rest of the time. So, but on those guilt-free days, have at it. Have at it.
Gotcha.
But
Thank you.
you don't have to eat everything all the time. So the first 3 tips are really very, very intertwined. And I do this for a reason because sometimes the message hits a little differently with people. But it's really important to just be intentional, be choosy, pick the days that you're going to be super indulgent, and then the rest of the time, be very diligent. The next tip, which I believe is 4 now, is take 10 minutes at minimum. If you can wait 15 to 20, even better. Because once you've eaten, it takes about 15 minutes for your brain to receive the signal that your stomach is full. Our stomachs are not very big. They don't hold a lot. And that's why people have that overstuffed feeling, usually like on Thanksgiving or at events where they are intentionally going to gorge themselves because your stomach is not that big. But so if you're wanting to go for seconds because something tasted, the satiation was so amazing, just give yourself at minimum 10 minutes. If you can go 15, great, because your body will all of a sudden be like, oh, I don't really have that craving anymore. The brain will get the signal and be like, oh, you know what? We're good. We're good right now. And then you'll feel better an hour later because if you go back and get your seconds before you give your body the chance to understand that it's full, an hour later you're gonna be like, oh, you're miserably stuffed. You hear all the time, I'm so full, or people will intentionally go to an event with elastic waistbands, so that they can, feel comfortable. And that's totally okay. I wear nice little sweats when I go eat Thanksgiving. So they're like my Biore sweats. I got an elastic waistband. I get it. There's no judgment there. I want
You, you have something with elastic in it. I love it. Thank you. There's hope for us yet.
but yeah, so give yourself just a pause. If you're wanting seconds, and there's nothing wrong with seconds, okay? It's just, but if you give yourself a pause, you'll understand and recognize maybe I don't need that second plate right now. So give it a go. And then the next one, the next tip, tip 5, is avoid recreational eating. And what that looks like is grazing. So much of our gathering happens in the kitchen, even when people are still preparing, and people will have a tendency to graze. And if you're well disciplined, that's okay. But if you're not disciplined, acknowledge that within yourself and understand that grazing is going to probably set you back and hurt you, and also impact your ability to enjoy your meal. So we have a tendency to graze. We park ourselves, either in the kitchen or over by the table, and we're just sitting there grazing. As we're having a conversation, the next thing you know, you've totally cleaned out a full bowl of dip yourself. So it's just avoid the recreational eating, get a plate, get your serving, and move away from where the food is being served. Um, it'll just help you be a little bit more in control of what you're consuming
Right. That
and the
makes
rate that
sense.
you're consuming it at.
Mhm.
Because we're all, I mean, it's a very social, and that's where you're saying, about it's sometimes it's well, not sometimes, it's always very communal. There's a lot of cultural part stuff that goes into it, a lot of family. And so there is a portion of getting together where grazing is kind of part of it. I know with my family, as we're preparing the big Thanksgiving meal, we do have stuff out to graze on. But it's usually pretty light. It's like a meat and cheese platter, some veggies and dip, and that's usually it. And that way that's being grazed on while we're preparing the big meal. But I'll tell you, as when I had little kids, I was like, no. Here, I would make them a plate. I'm like, this is it. Otherwise, when we sit down to dinner, you're not going to eat.
Right. Yeah, there's that too. And the other F that I will add to yours is fellowship. And I think
Yes.
that's when I think about the grazing and all the rest, that's just part of, I don't know why we have to have a plate or a drink or something in our hand while we're doing
Oh,
it, but yeah, yeah, these are good tips. Thank you. Go ahead.
well, the reason that is because people have a tendency to not know what to do with their hands when they're, in a group setting and they're talking. And so they like to have a drink in their hand or something, a plate in their hand, because then it gives them something to focus on, if they're nervous. It's usually a nervous thing for people when they want something in their hands. Um, Speaking of drinks in your hand, the next tip, tip 6, is drink to your health. Make sure that you're doing plenty of water. If you do consume alcoholic beverages at gatherings or at parties, just make sure that you're spacing it out and drinking plenty of water in between each alcoholic beverage. Has a tendency when people are at parties and they're holding a wine glass and it just keeps getting filled. And it's like, set that wine glass down and grab a glass of water, and drink water before you start drinking alcohol. Because before you know it, you're two sheets to the wind and it's not good. So just
Right.
manage your alcohol, but just drinking to your health is making sure that you're consuming plenty of water. So that's an important one. And if you are drinking, the next tip is do not drink on an empty stomach. Do not, do not, do not. Most people have a tendency to get right to a party or a gathering, and the first thing that's being served is, hey, can I get you a drink? And it's like, make sure you get some food in your stomach, or if you know that that's the way the host is going to have the party, eat some food before you go. If you're going to have an alcoholic beverage when you show up, because drinking alcohol on an empty stomach just sets the tone for the whole evening for you, and sometimes it does not go well. So, and it's just not very good for your health. So, mind your alcohol. I know we like it, especially during the holidays, but make sure you're just minding it. Next tip, don't go to a party famished. You know, it is not a good idea, because if you do, you will just eat, 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 eat. And unless you know that you're going to like the best hosted, and you know that the food is going to be off the charts and you're going in with the intention of like, I am going to gorge today. Today is my guilt-free day and I am just going to have at it. Then fine. You can go to a party famished because you're going with that intent. But if you go to a gathering super hungry, you have a tendency to overeat. And that's the case for just life in general. If you get to a point to where you're famished, we have a tendency to overeat because we're so hungry and we're not giving our body enough time to let that signal from the stomach go to the brain to say, hey, we've had enough. We're good. So it's really that's a good life rule to have is don't get so far gone to where you're super famished.
Makes sense. And then you won't look greedy when you get there either.
Right. I mean, I have a dear friend that does host, and she's a chef in her other life. Like she has a career, but she's an amazing chef. And I know if I'm going to her house for an event, I'm going hungry because everything that she makes is amazing. And I'm not missing any of it. So if you're doing it, just be intentional about it.
Yeah.
All right. Next tip is to put on those dancing shoes
Mm.
or those walking shoes if you don't want to dance. But it's it's a great communal thing and fellowship thing if you want to put on some shoes and go for a walk, between dinner and dessert. It's a wonderful thing. The weather is beautiful. If you live where it's cold and snowy and icy, might not be. You guys might be putting some music on and doing some dancing instead. Here in Arizona, when the sun goes down, it's beautiful. So it's easy to go for a walk. But also go ahead and dance. And if you're the shy one, maybe find someone that's not shy to help get things started. If you are somewhere with a gathering and you put some music on and someone starts dancing, I'm telling you, it is contagious. People will start slowly bopping and then tapping their foot and then they'll get into it. People want to move their body and people love music. It's a very emotional thing with music. So have some music on and be bold enough to do a little dancing. It would be so fun too if you created a space and you took some dancing lessons and learned how to even ballroom dance or do something. But the point is get moving between dinner and dessert. Do something, whether it's walking, dancing, whatever, but move your body. You'll feel so much better and you'll enjoy dessert 10 times more.
One of the things that can be fun is line dancing, and you can learn some of the fun line dances right on YouTube or other places too. And so then your young kids, they can get involved and they like learning these steps. And now you'll have them burning up a little energy. Maybe they'll tire out a little bit sooner than, you know. And so that can be a fun thing too. If you don't like to ballroom or swing or do some of those other kind of dances, this might be a fun thing to do too.
That's a great idea. I love that because that's also very contagious. People start line dancing. And it's like, oh, that looks fun. I'll jump in on that.
Hmm.
Yeah, get moving. It'll feel good. You'll feel better. Your kids will enjoy it more. So it's fun. It's fun. The next tip is to opt for homemade versus processed. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. I knew it was coming on. So just do homemade versus processed. It gives you the opportunity to be more aware. Excuse me.
We all know that processed food, what that's like. It's easy to get on some processed food because it's fast. It's a quick thing to do. But learning how to do some of the homemade things is going to be fun. Okay, go ahead, coach.
Oh, thank you. It's important because it is convenient and we have a tendency to buy the um I was somewhere and I saw like the mashed potatoes at the store, like in a container. And I was like, okay, I get that because it's easy. But at the same time, like you have the preservatives that are in that. But if you just boil some potatoes, mash them yourself, add your cream, add your butter, like it just gives you an awareness level of what you're making if you're making it yourself rather than buying something processed. And I can guarantee you it's going to have zero preservatives in it if you're making it yourself, um, unless you're using an ingredient that has preservatives in it. But It's just better than doing something that is highly processed. So really try to do that. I understand the convenience, especially if you're cooking a lot for a lot of people. But I'll just encourage you to kind of hedge towards being a little more creative, and it might be fun for you to find a recipe to try something rather than just buying it. Like with pie, like I have not learned to make a good pie yet. Like my mom is a pie master. And so I don't buy pies, but I'm like, Mom, can you just make the pies? Like, and assuming she's not making them anymore, I'm gonna have to figure it out because I don't want to buy a pie. I want to make it.
Now, what about the pies and things that are made in the bakeries, like at Costco and different places where they are fresh? They are homemade, if you will. They're made there on site. And so they don't have the preservatives because they have the expiration date and all that. What about those?
Those are much better to do than something like a frozen pie that you're defrosting or, yeah, those I like. Those at the Costco because those are very fresh. I will say they make a killer pumpkin pie. They do. It's pretty
Apple
fresh.
pie and pumpkin and pecan pie too. They don't mess around with their pies. They're
No, they do not. Yeah, so just try to really work at doing more homemade rather than processed. You'll feel better. Can guarantee you that. The next tip is portion control. And I know this is a hard one, so the tip for that is to use smaller plates or even smaller serving utensils because we have a tendency to fill that plate up. Uh, and I'll tell you, I have been guilty of like when I know it's a smaller plate, I'm like, well, I already know I'm gonna get seconds, or I'll just carry two plates. So I know that goes through people's minds because it goes through mine. Like, so I know if I'm thinking it, other people are thinking it. But the whole point of having a smaller plate is to give you the opportunity to just eat more controlled portions because we have a tendency to just overeat. And once again, if this is your intentional guilt-free day, have at it. Go for it. But if it's another everyday, take the benefit and the trick of having a smaller plate. Because once the plate's full and you're like, okay, that's what I'm gonna eat. That's all I can fit on here. And you eat it and you give pause and you wait, you'll realize, ah, that was enough. I'm good to go.
that sounds wonderful. However, and this is so I don't even know the word to use for this, but maybe we should just put disclaimers out as it's not that we don't have enough food. We're just careful about you and being healthy, so we're providing you more portion controlled plates. But feel free to have seconds. You don't want it to look like you don't have enough food, and so we're just we're just giving you this little tiny plate because we need enough to go around, right? So isn't that awful to have to worry
Absolutely.
about that or think about that?
It's very
We
true
have
though, but
food.
it's a good tactic. It's a good tactic because we have a tendency because our society went, in the last couple decades actually, going to restaurants, the portions are huge, and then we have these platter-sized dinner plates, and it's like the amount of calories that you can pile onto that plate are enough for your entire day sometimes. So it's we're getting back to, because I've told this before on this show actually, the size of a dinner plate back in the 70s and 80s was like I think it was an 8-inch plate, might have been 10. Now the average is a 12-inch plate. That's a lot. That's a big plate.
That's a brunch plate. There are different sizes, and the 12-inch is meant for brunch. But we've got guess what? Wendy is here from Texas. So Texas, everything is bigger. So right? So I don't know, maybe that's part of it too. Part of the again, the culture of where
Yeah.
you are, that the expectation is for things to say, we have enough for
Yeah.
you. I don't know. I'm just
No,
trying to find a way to eat a little bit more, coach.
no, that's
Yeah.
very valid. That's a very valid thought process and concern for a lot of people. Like we want to, if you're hosting, you want it to be abundant, you know, and that's okay because that's a lot. People that are hosting are typically very, very giving and they want it to feel abundant. Um, because my dear friend that I was talking about, she purposefully buys to-go containers and we'll have them off to the side. And when the meal is done, she sets them out and she lets all the guests take whatever they want to take home. She doesn't keep any of it. Um, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty miraculous because it all gets cleaned out.
It's she stays thin and she sends everybody else home so they can get fat. Okay, thanks so much.
I wouldn't
I
say
see
that,
what's
but
happening. I see what's happening here.
so our last tip is what I really like, and I want to encourage people to take to heart, and that's ditching the food rules. And the thing with that is there's no bad versus good. There's no all or nothing. Everything has a nutritional value, so remove your guilt. It's not like bad calories, good calories. It's just calories, and that helps people remove the guilt from eating bad calories. Yes, we want to tip two, do protein and fiber first, because that's very filling and that the nutritional density to that is much better than having nutritional density of a cake. Because you got your protein and your fiber that's actually serving a purpose, whereas the other is just serving calories for you to burn for energy. So it's not good or bad. It's just all has nutritional value. So remove the guilt. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Uh, be intentional about choosing your days. And some of the other, so those were my 12 tips. And I know that we'll have them in the comments section, but some of the other things to really encourage people to think about and be conscientious of is stick to your sleep schedule. We have a tendency to get out of whack with our sleep as well, and that impacts your glucose levels. And that's why during periods of time of eating more, a little more engorgement, people have a tendency to run the risk of developing type 2 diabetes because their glucose levels, their insulin levels are all out of whack. But when you're sleeping, your body has an opportunity to keep that rhythm. So make sure that you're sticking to sleep, your sleep schedule. And also take time to de-stress. Take time to just decompress and really be intentional about what holiday time is about. The fellowship, the family, the friends, making memories. And if you find yourself feeling really overwhelmed, just focus on one thing that you want to do, to stay healthy. And if that's, I'm going to make sure I get my protein in, great. If it's, I'm going to make sure I do small bursts of exercise 3 days during the week, perfect. I'm going to focus on, just find one thing that you can want to focus on. Like I had a client the other day that I was like, let's just get your sleep. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about you moving your body, how you're eating. Let's get your sleep schedule under control. And then we can layer on habits. So if you find yourself looking at these tips and going, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Just find one thing that you think you can manage.
Now, Kitty is asking, what do you mean ditch food rules?
So the food rules of like good versus bad, in the sense of people quantify good versus bad on calories. Calories are calories. And the food rule of it's all or nothing. I can only be totally committed to super healthy, or I am just going to completely fall off the wagon. It doesn't have to be that way. Everything has a balance, and at least it should, because that's the healthy way. And then the whole good versus bad is remove the guilt. Like there's no need to guilt yourself thinking that you just ate bad calories. It's just calories. Like move on. It's okay. If you didn't like how you did it today, you have an opportunity to do it better tomorrow. And that's what's like, awesome. Like too many people hang on to like, I messed up today. It's like, okay, you did. But you know what? You have tomorrow. And you can be 1% better tomorrow. And that's all you want to do.
Well, Laura suggests that she puts some cauliflower, some steamed cauliflower in her mashed potatoes, and no one will ever know. So there's a little something, something, something that we can think about, right?
I do that when I make shepherd's pie with my kids. And when I finally told them it was cauliflower, they were like, wait, what? Because I would do half cauliflower, half mashed potatoes, and then I slowly get rid of the potatoes and it was all cauliflower. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, yep.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for these wonderful 12 tips. This has been enjoyable. And our producer, Dawn, put those in the chat for anybody else who wants to look at them and copy them and share them with other people. This will go on our Facebook page so that you can rewatch this when you need to. And in December, please join us on the 9th when Coach is going to talk to us about closing out 2025 and setting New Year's intentions. We look forward to seeing you then. Until then, take care and God bless.
Thank you.